Awesome. Thank you so much. And just wanted to thank you and everyone for showing up. It's an honor to be here. Today I am going to go ahead and start off by kind of going over a little bit of information for student employment. Prior to becoming the manager here at the Student Employment Office, along with a one-stop, I served as a HR tech for student employment for close to 5 years. So I'm hoping just with this kind of brief overview that I could share some insight, just a little bit about our rate of pay, our classifications, different resources for all different departments, and kind of just give you a little overview of what we do here at the Student Employment Office. Once I get done, I will pass it over to Kate, and she's amazing, and she'll kind of go over her area. So and I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. Go ahead. And all right. All right. Can everyone see this? Are we good to go? Awesome. So kind of like a little bit of background about myself. I know I kind of covered it, but when I first came over to student employment back in I think 2017, our area wasn't really known as being one of the most efficient areas on campus. So along with myself and Elizabeth Almador, who's now the director of financial aid, we kind of took it upon ourselves to kind of change the procedures and the reputation of student employment. It was definitely not an easy process. There were a lot of cleanups and procedures that we had to take care of first, but as the years went on, I think we did a good job at establishing ourselves as a department that is easy to work with, reliable, and diligent on the type of work that we do. So I'll go ahead and start into the slides. Let me get over there. All right. So the first thing that I kind of want to introduce to everyone, and I apologize for the format, but what I kind of want to go over first is the student employment pay scale. For all my slides, I do provide the link on our website that you could kind of take a picture, or I could provide the information, but it'll kind of take you directly into the resource where you can see this on your own. So we basically have four different position classes here at the Student Employment Office. Our first class is our entry level position, in which the minimum wage will kind of reflect on the state minimum wage. So as of 1/1 of this year, the minimum wage in the state was $12. So that's where we bumped our minimum wage as well, with the max being $17. As we kind of enter into the intermediate levels, the minimum wage kind of jumps up to $14, along with the maximum being $19. As you can probably see already, there is a little overlap between the rates of pay, and I'll kind of explain a little bit more when I go into the descriptions of the different position classes. So there will be times that you'll see like an intermediate level student making about the same or less than entry level, but it really breaks down into the student's experience. But like I said, I'll kind of jump into that a little bit more on the next couple of slides. But kind of continuing with our position class, we have our third class, which is the advanced level, in which the minimum wage needs to be at $16, and then the maximum going into $21. And finally, our technical level specialist class, the minimum was $18 and the max being $23. So prior to about, I would have to say, I took a year off as an HR tech and did a little counseling, but probably about a year before I left, we realized that our position class and pay scales were kind of all over the place. So after working with Liz and other department areas, in particular UNMHR, we came up with this new pay scale to kind of break it up a little bit more for which position classes and position titles departments are using for their student hires. Prior to this new class that we, this pay scale that we made, you could be arranged from the minimum wage all the way up to 17 was the maximum rate of pay. We realized that with inflation and with just times in general that we needed to be able to increase the rates of pay for our student employees. So kind of moving into our next screen, I will go ahead and kind of go into a little breakdown, into what each position class title and kind of what we're kind of looking for. So if you're trying to hire a student through the student employment office, there's, like I mentioned previously, there's going to be the entry, intermediate, advanced as well. So kind of breaking into the descriptions for each grade. Obviously with the student entry level, this is going to be the very first level of work experience for any students that you want to bring on with your department. You can kind of see it's a little to no prior experience or education. The routine duties are pretty low. There's a lot of independent judgment. Work is usually completed under immediate supervision. And some examples of like an entry level position that you might be thinking about bringing the student on would be for like an admin, office assistant, desk assistant, communications assistant, things to that nature. As your student employee advances and learns more of the duties, or if you find a candidate that has already previous experience in what you're expecting for the student to do at your department, you could kind of look into the student, student intermediate level. And this one's a little more advanced than entry level. The student will hopefully have some previous knowledge of the duties that you're expecting them to do. There's going to be more of a general supervision, not really staying on top of them, making sure everything's doing right. You're kind of, the student's going to be able to accomplish their duties. I mean, some of the job titles that we kind of have for our intermediate level, it's going to be like accounting assistants, marketing assistant, lead techs, lead peer advisors, things of that nature. So it's more basically going off of just, all right, this student has some experience. We don't really need to do intense training with them. They know what they're doing. And then as we move on, let me go to the next one. You can kind of see with the student advanced level, it's definitely going to have more prior experience, education, or specialized skills required with this position class. They're going to be performing more complex duties along with a higher level of responsibility and professional judgment. It could be that the advanced level students might be supervising some of the entry level or intermediate positions or their peers, but it really kind of comes down to the needs of the department. Some examples of the student advanced level, it would be like a senior assistant, head security, front desk manager, IT tech, things of that nature. Finally, going into our student technical specialist. This is our most advanced technical position class. These are going to be the ones that have specialized knowledge or previous experience. They're going to have to be able to demonstrate ability to perform the judgment skills that are needed within your department. Work is completed with very limited supervision. They don't need direct supervision unless it's a complex situation that they're encountering. Some work for these skilled technical specialists would be like research, web development, marketing, project or data outreach, things of that nature. The technical specialist is our last position class. And it's really for your more advanced student employees, whether that be someone from within that's already been working with you, they've demonstrated the ability to be placed at the student technical specialist, or it could be someone that you hire outside that has previous experience. We kind of leave these decisions to the discretion of each department. what we want to do at our office is to provide you all the information that you need to know and to get the right person for the right job duty. Kind of moving on, I'm going to just touch bases a little bit regarding our termination grievance procedure. This is a pretty detailed information, I have to say, for all my years that I was working at student employment. I've only encountered this maybe 2 or 3 times. It's not a very common thing. It typically doesn't happen very often, but if it does, this slide's kind of giving you a little description of what it is, but there is a lot more detailed explanation on the grievance procedure on our student handbook, which I'll provide a link to in the next couple of slides. But it kind of goes into the fact that for a student to be able to file a grievance procedure, it has to be after their probation period. At student employment, typically we'll give you a 60-day probation period for all new hires. And during that time, if it's not a fit, you're able, just almost like a full-time staff member, you're able to discharge the student without providing any documentation or reasoning. It's a probation period. So we kind of let you have a month or 2 to kind of see if the individual is going to be a fit for you. But if it goes beyond the probation period and the students let go, not by their own resignation or quitting, but this is when it comes down that the administration or whoever may be supervising the student encountered a situation that they needed to discharge the student immediately. We do provide the opportunity for the students, if they so seek, to file a grievance. Like I said, a couple of the bulletin points, I'm sorry, that I kind of included is the employee shall submit when notice initiating the termination grievance procedure within 10 working days of the termination. The notice should be directed to the concerned department chairperson or direct with a copy submitted to our office. The concerned department chairperson or director shall hold an informal meeting with the employee and render a written decision. Step 2 will occur within 10 working days following the filing and writing of such a complaint within the department chairperson. And also the employee may file an appeal to a termination grievance board within 10 working days of notification of the decision reached in step 2. Like I said, within the grievance procedure, there's a lot more different steps. Kate was helping me with the slides, and she kind of noticed that, yeah, if I included the whole procedure for the grievance, it would have been an additional 4 or 5 slides. So I just want to kind of touch bases with this, but like I said, you'll be able to find all the information you need on the grievance procedure on the student employee handbook that we have located on our site. Moving forward to our next screen, I want to provide some student employment resources. One of the best things that what we've worked on our website is to provide resources for not only students, but also for departments as well. Some of the resources, and I kind of put in the link that will take you directly to the web page. It's going to have like information on how to submit an EPAF, which is an electronic personnel action form. It's an electronic form that you could either extend students, you could end job assignments, you could it's typically usually just extending and separating students with the EPAF. You'll also be able to see the pay scale that I provided in my previous slides, along with payroll information, like when payrolls due, timesheets, things of that nature. The student employment handbook is going to be a resource that is provided for both departments and for students as well. But then I just want to touch bases with the student employment handbook real quick. It's going to cover pretty much almost any question that you have. You could find the answer on this. It goes on like, what qualifications do you need to be employed through student employment, how many hours they're able to work each semester, hours they could work during the summer, during the intermission, things like that. Pretty much it's our go-to that we kind of direct departments if they kind of want to know more about the student employment procedure. Like I mentioned earlier, we got the timesheets and all the mandatory trainings. Oops. All right. So when we go to the student resources, as you can kind of see already, we have the student employment handbook. We have information for international students, for graduate employments. We have a resource for the Office of Equal Opportunity in case your student employees feel like they need to go that route. Women's Resource Center, Veterans Resource Center, and Career Services. What we want to do is just kind of give you all the resources that we have, just because I know in particular during the beginning and end of the semesters, our processing time, our emails, our phones are extremely high during these times. So if you do encounter a problem or have any questions during these peak periods, you could take a look on these resources and kind of see if you can find an answer yourself, but if not, definitely feel free to reach out to myself, to my HR techs, or anyone in our office, and we'll definitely be able to help you out with that. Let's see. So we also some other resources that we have. We do have a really awesome program for off-campus employment, which kind of runs through our awesome officer Jeanette, who handles affiliations from outside of UNM that come through us to hire student employees with federal work study. And we also initiated, probably I would have to say it's a very new program. It's Lobo Grow. It has the link will provide an overview of the program and information for supervisors and students on what we're trying to do with it, with this program. And really, it's, to sum it up in a nutshell, it's kind of tracking the process on student employees when they get hired on, if once they graduate, if they stay at UNM, if they stay within the same field they've been working at, things of that nature. We also have a secure upload document website. So a lot of times we encounter students that may have 2 or 3 jobs on campus. They might have a student employment job and a graduate position. For these cases, we will require like 2 job memos, 3 job memos, or FTE memos. We provide the secure website so the students could fill out all the information and upload it as well. Without having to come into one stop to turn it in hand. Finally, the biggest thing that I would encourage everyone that's in here is to sign up on our listserv. On our listserv, what we provide is typically between the beginning of every semester, what we send out is our hiring guidelines. But then these hiring guidelines, you're gonna see priority dates, you're gonna see information how to transfer a student if like they're on student employment and they got work study. I'll show you what you need to do to transfer them to different positions and any important dates or information you might need. It's on our basic website. It's really easy to sign up. You just put in your information, you'll get a confirmation email, and then everything that we send out, you'll be part of. I know especially during the fall, the spring, it is a very high turnover rate. We get extremely busy. And what I kind of stress to different departments is we really only have 2 HR techs and myself. And we handle all the student employee hiring for not only UNM, but also for all the branch campuses. So when these hiring guidelines come out, these priority dates, they're very important, especially for the fall semester. If you submit your hiring paperwork, your requisitions, things of that nature, we, excuse me, we take that into consideration, and we guarantee that if you submit your paperwork, whatever it may be, before this priority deadline, we'll get it processed before the end of the semester. But yeah, that would definitely be a big thing. If you're looking to bring on student employees, I would definitely sign up for our listserv. And finally, I'll kind of give you our contact information. If you have any questions whatsoever, please give us a call or shoot us an email. I could put in the chat my email as well. What we strive to do is to make everyone's jobs a little bit easier. I know it's a stressful time, especially at the beginning of the department. So we really want to provide a full access and support for you as well. So on this slide, you'll see our phone number and our student employment email address. And I am just about done with mine. Is there any questions or anything I can maybe answer for anyone before I pass it over to Kate? All right, Miss Kate, I am going to turn it over to you. Let me stop sharing.
Hey, all right. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. So hi, everyone. My name's Kate. I work over in the Office for Academic Personnel. I am the Labor and Employee Relations Specialist over here. My office handles HR functions for faculty, and in January of this year, we took over handling several aspects of graduate assistantship holders. So I'm going to talk to you specifically about graduate assistantship holders today, graduate assistant employees. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. I'll answer any questions that I'm able to. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to touch base on is what kind of assistantships are available here at UNM, and what kind of assistantship should you be pursuing for your area, for your department, for your particular grant. My understanding and from what I've seen is that your areas typically focus on our research assistants, and so our research assistants are folks who assist in research work that's relevant to the assistant's thesis, dissertation, or other requirements for a graduate degree. This is a really important piece of being a research assistant. The work that these folks are doing really needs to align with their dissertation, their thesis, and be something that is helping them get towards their degree. The assistantships, regardless of what kind you have, whether it's a research assistant, project assistant, graduate assistant, or teaching assistant, they should all be in support of the education of the student. One thing to remember about the graduate assistants and the assistantship holders is that they are employees, but they're also students. So they hold a couple of different hats, and we need to treat them a couple of different ways. When we're talking about their employment, they are employees, but that employment really must be in support of their education. For research assistants, the folks that you all use the most and the folks that you hire the most, we really want to make sure that that research is in support of their degree. For those of you who don't know, the graduate assistants unionized. The unionization of that group went into effect in December of 2022. So in January of 2023, we rolled out a lot of information and a lot of changes to the departments. One of them was minimum salary guidelines for graduate assistantship holders. So for people who've reviewed the collective bargaining agreement, what you'll note is that under Article 5, Section D, we talk about what minimum salary guidelines are. What we want to highlight when we're talking about minimum salaries is that the departments are not required to only pay minimum salaries. This has been a little bit of a point of confusion in some areas. We want to make sure that it's understood that there is a minimum that you have to pay your assistantship holders, that there is a minimum that has to be met regardless. Having said that, you can go above the minimum. So it's not set in stone that you have to stay in one area. What I will say about the minimum salary guidelines in your area is that you want to pay attention to a couple of things when we're talking about salaries for your assistantship holders. You want to kind of take a look at the landscape around you. So what are other research assistants paid in your area? are we being equitable when we're looking at that? We want to make sure that while some people may get paid slightly higher or slightly lower, that we are not paying someone exponentially higher or lower than other areas. We want to make sure that we're looking at this and being equitable when appropriate. Another area that we want to talk about when we talk about our salary guidelines is we do have negotiations for salaries. So the union or UNM can open salary negotiations beginning September 15th through October 15th. So what happens is we can, or the union can, request to open salary negotiations. I want to make sure everybody understands that these are happening. We're currently in that window right now. And what I want to make sure that is really understood is that if you are going to offer somebody an assistantship contract, that you understand that there are salary negotiations that could potentially happen. And if a salary negotiation happens and there is an increase that comes along with that negotiation, regardless of what the salary is that you offered the person in their contract that they're currently in, you will have to then go up in salary depending on what's negotiated. So just something to kind of keep in mind. For research assistants, there can be a little bit of difference a lot of times because it's tied to funding. It's not necessarily always something that's negotiated, but we want to make sure that there is an understanding that these negotiations do happen when it comes to salary. And if you have any questions about that, you're more than welcome to reach out to my office. The guidelines for the assistantship salaries are in this link in this slide, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of this slide presentation after. Department pay practices are something that are really important, and we want to make sure that we touch on. Departments can pay what they feel and what is appropriate based on the position that they're offering, and also based on budgets in your department. So some department pay practices that we have identified in our office since we have taken over working through the contracts with the assistantship holders are things like paying GAs and TAs at the same rate. So if you have graduate assistant or a teaching assistant and you pay them the same rate, that is fine. We recommend that you always have documentation of what your pay practices are. But if you want to pay that way, that's fine as long as you're being consistent. Paying assistantship holders enrolled in a PhD program the same rate regardless of the MA degree. So if you have PhD students and master's degree students and you want to pay them the same rate, you can do that. That is not a problem as long as you're being consistent. There are some departments that increase salaries once students reach candidacy. If you have a practice of doing this, continue on that practice. If you are going to increase salaries for any of your assistantship holders, when you submit that contract, what we ask for is that you justify that and explain it to us in the contract system itself, in Lobo contracts. We want to make sure that we have an understanding of where this increase is coming from and what it's for. And if it's based on current practices, please continue on. We may ask some questions, but we are not here to be a roadblock. We just want to make sure there's some consistency in that practice. We want to make sure it's documented. Like I said, we'll ask you in that justification section. And then we will, at some point, we are kind of working towards making sure that we understand and know all the pay practices in departments. Some information about pay schedules for assistantships. This area can be a little bit confusing for not only departments, but also for assistantship holders themselves. So there is a different pay structure for each kind of assistantship. TAs and GAs are on one pay structure, whereas RAs are on a different, and then PAs are on an even more different pay structure. So TAs and GAs are paid in equal installments. So that means they're paid for, if you have a TA or a GA who's working an entire semester, so from August to December, they're going to be paid in 5 equal installments. So 5 equal installments regardless of their start date. That is how they will be paid. They are considered exempt employee under the Fair Labor Standards Act. They will be paid on the last business day of the month, just like any other 5-hour employee. So any other exempt employee at the university is paid on the last day of the month. That is how TAs and GAs are paid. Research assistants are paid monthly, but it's based on the actual days that they work. So if you start your research assistant in the middle of August, if you start them on August 15th and you end them on December 11th, they are only going to be paid for August 15th through December 11th. So the August paycheck and the December paycheck is going to be prorated based on the days that they worked. They will also be paid on the last day of the month, but those paychecks are going to be prorated. So that's a little bit of an area of confusion sometimes for our RAs. They will see their first pay stub come out, their first paycheck come out in August, and it's less than what they're going to get in September. And it can be a little bit confusing. So making sure that they have a really good understanding that their first and last paycheck are likely going to be prorated depending on the day that they start working and the day that they end. Our project assistants, they are hourly employee. There are only hourly employee in this, in our assistantship types. So they are paid bi-weekly. They're paid by the hour. You set an hourly rate for them, and that is what they are paid. They are considered non-exempt employees. So they are paid bi-weekly, and again, they're an hourly rate. So all three different areas, or all four different areas, have three different pay structures. We want to talk about the contracts themselves. Under the collective bargaining agreement, Article 9, it really talks about the contract itself and the specific information that's required to be in the contract. So the information that's required is the start and the end date. I want to express to you that the start and the end date are extremely important when we're talking about the contract. When you submit a contract to us through LoboWeb, through Lobo Contracts, you have to put an accurate start date and an accurate end date. The student cannot start working prior to the start date. So if the start date is August 1st, you cannot have them start on, July 28th or 29th. They cannot start working until the first day that the contract says that they are allowed to work. As well, on the end date, they have to stop working on that end date. They cannot work any longer than the end date on the contract. If you need assistance with that or you have questions, please work with my department, the Office for Academic Personnel. We'll help you with those start and end dates, but we want to make sure that people are not working outside of their contract dates. There is a requirement for there to be a supervisor. So you have to list that supervisor accurately. So the actual supervisor for that person. It cannot be just somebody in the department that you list everybody under when we are talking about the supervisor. It has to be the person actually doing the supervision of the assistantship holder. So we want to make sure that that is correct and accurate. Not only does that help the student, the assistantship holder, know who they report to, it also helps my office if we ever have any questions or need to reach out to anyone, we need to talk to the supervisor for whatever reason. It really helps us to know who that supervisor is. You have to provide a general description of the duties for this person, and the duties that you assign the person have to match the title that you chose for the position. So if you choose a research assistant for the position, you want to make sure that the job duties are research aligned. They align with research. If your description says they'll be doing making photocopies and answering phones or grading papers and things like that, teaching a class, that likely does not align with a research assistant title. And we will send the contract back to you to revise. We want to make sure those descriptions are accurate. If you have teaching assistants in your area, we want to make sure that you're listing in the description section what classes they are teaching. If you don't know at the time you're submitting the contract what classes they are teaching, how many credit hours are they teaching? That information is really helpful, and we do have to provide that to them in the contract. What required coursework is necessary for the contract. And then if there's any required training that is required, you can also put that in there. There is UNM required training that's already listed in the contract itself that's generated through the system. If there's additional training, you can always just add that into the description section, and that's perfectly fine. So authority to offer employment. So we want to make sure that when we're offering employment to the assistantship holders, that we kind of understand what the process is for offering that. There have been concerns of offers of employment, and when we say offers, we're putting this in quotation marks, offers of employment that don't materialize. And what that might look like is a faculty member who approaches a graduate student and says, hey, I have some grant money coming through. I want to offer you a research assistant position, but I'm not sure until my grant comes through, but if I get that grant, you're the person. That could be misconstrued as an offer of employment. And what we want to make sure is that any offers of employment are in writing and that they have been approved. The graduate dean or the designee approver of the contract is not a contract until there is a contract. So we can't be making kind of one-off offers to assistantship holders or graduate students. We have to make those offers very formal so that there is no question if they have an offer or not. So what we want to emphasize with faculty is explicit remarks about the likelihood of a forthcoming assistantship. So like I said, if there is just a conversation between a faculty member and a graduate student, and then that doesn't materialize, the student might think that they have an offer. That is not an offer. So we just want to make sure that there is a really good understanding what an offer looks like. Faculty are not empowered to offer employment. You cannot say, I am going to employ you. You will have a job come spring semester. That is not the way we want to handle that. We want to make sure that we are providing them with an admissions offer letter, an admissions letter, and there are published information on that on the OAP website to make sure that it's clear what the offer is and what the terms of those offers are. And we're going to talk really quick about our grievance procedure. So under the collective bargaining agreement, under Article 13, we do have a grievance procedure. Assistantship holders can file grievances under the collective bargaining agreement. I always tell supervisors not to be afraid of the grievance process. We do have to follow it. And I also tell supervisors to also not be afraid to have conversations and address concerns with employees, even though there is a grievance procedure and a collective bargaining agreement. We need to address concerns, issues with our staff and with our employees. We want to make sure that we do it appropriately. So we'll talk briefly about what the grievance process is. So under the grievance process, there is an informal step. An informal step can look like many things. An informal step can look like a student, a graduate assistantship holder coming to you as a supervisor and saying, hey, I think I have an issue with my pay. Can you help me get that resolved? That could be an informal step of the grievance procedure. Your response to somebody coming to you like that with a pay issue should be, let me work with you on that. Let me reach out to the Office for Academic Personnel. Let's see if we can get this worked out. So if you do receive something like that, that could be considered an informal step of the grievance procedure. It doesn't have to be a assistantship holder coming to you and say, I am making an informal grievance. It does not have to be like that. And likely it won't be like that. Usually it will just be one of your assistantship holders coming to you and saying, hey, I have a problem. Can you help me get it fixed? That could be the first informal step. There is then a process after that if their issue or concern is not resolved. So our CBA that we are in with the graduate students does express a commitment to resolve the issue at the lowest possible level at the informal step. So what can we do to help this before we get into the more formal grievance process? And it does provide a structure to resolve grievances at the formal level if we can't get through it at the informal level. So what is a grievance? So this can be kind of confusing. And like I said, we definitely want to talk about the informal level as being part of the process, but then there is a more formal process. So a grievance is a dispute or alleged violation, misappropriation, misinterpretation of a specific article or section of the collective bargaining agreement. An appeal for discipline or discharge during the term of the contract, or a revocation of written assistantship offer. So that's what a grievance is. So what is not grievable under the collective bargaining unit? A decision not to offer an assistantship or termination of an active assistantship for academic reasons. So If you decide not to offer an assistantship to a graduate student, that is not grievable under the collective bargaining agreement. Also, terminating the assistantship because of academic reasons. So a student is not academically eligible to hold an assistantship. That is not grievable. So those are some things that are not. So other things, matters of which the university does not have the authority to act on. So some areas that we've seen in grievances are taxes. So these are employees, like all other employees, they have to pay taxes on their work. We saw some grievances kind of at the beginning of last semester where we were getting grievances on taxes. Those aren't grievable. We can't take somebody's taxes away. We can't stop the government from taking taxes out. So those are things that are not grievable. There's not a lot we can do about that. So understanding kind of what that looks like, what's grievable and not, is important. But if you ever have any questions, if somebody's brought something to you and you're not sure if that's an informal grievance, you're not sure if it's just a question, don't hesitate to reach out and we can definitely kind of talk you through it. So again, the informal grievance, it's very informal. There is no specific structure. The bargaining unit member is expected to meet with the immediate supervisor or designee in a good faith attempt to resolve the issue. We want you to work, the supervisor to work with the graduate student to resolve the issue if you can. If you can't, then we may have to move on to the next step of the grievance process, but our goal should always be to try to resolve things at the lowest level at that informal process. Article 13, Section L talks about what the outline is for the grievance process. So the informal grievance, like I said, could come in many different ways. You may not even know you're in the informal process in the moment you're in it. If you have questions, let us know. If the issue doesn't get resolved at that informal step, they may take it to step 1. Step 1 will require a written grievance be sent. That written grievance will be reviewed. A meeting will have to be scheduled between the chair and the assistantship holder themselves, or if this is a group grievance, with somebody else through that process. And you will have to meet with those people. OAP will assist with that and try to come to a resolution. They then can go up to step 2 and then step 3, which is arbitration. Our goal is to avoid that if we at all possibly can. Sometimes arbitration is not able to be foregone. We have to go through it. And if it gets to that point, we'll work closely with you. But I think that the areas that you really want to focus on are the informal step and then step 1. Our goal should always be resolve it at the informal step. If not, let's move on to step 1 and see if we can resolve it there. So a formal grievance, step 1, step 2, and step 3, all the way up to arbitration. Like I said, step 1 is the chair or director or designee, if that's appropriate. Union or university cannot unilaterally decide to skip steps. So the union nor we can say, we want to go straight to step 3 in arbitration, or we want to go straight to step 2. You have to go informal, step 1, step 2, and then step 3. Formal steps have very specific timelines that you have to follow, and they're very short timelines in some respects. Okay, so if you get a grievance, you need to reach out to my office as soon as possible. We need to start getting through the timeline and getting through the process as quickly as possible because the timelines can be very short. The grievance itself has to be complete, and we do have to provide a written response once we start getting into that formal step 1, step 2, and step 3. My office will support you through the process. We'll review and research issues. We do this all the time. We manage the information requests. A lot of times with a grievance, we get information requests. We will manage that. We're going to have to partner with you, but we definitely will work with you through it. And then we're going to support during the grievance meeting itself. Ooh. All right, I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. Please, if you are a supervisor or working in a department, please do not attempt to interpret the collective bargaining agreement. The collective bargaining agreement requires interpretation up through the provost office, up through the provost himself. You cannot interpret what the document says. My office keeps a list of how we've interpreted things under the collective bargaining agreement in the past, so that what we can do is then be consistent in our implementation of that. Common issues that we see are contract termination, pay issues and withholding. So like I said, tax issues, performance management, and then application of the leave as just